you know, I tried to do my show a little different. I'm a producer, engineer, artist myself. And I tried to do my show where, you know, we of course we're going to talk about the basics, but also talk about stuff that they can't go on YouTube and see that somebody else asked them. You know, I mean, I try to get more into the craft and more the process and stuff like that. And this is kind of, you know, it's information that I love to talk about, and other people will be like, yo, I've never heard that. You know what I mean? So again, I appreciate you taking the time. First off, I got to ask, and why, you know, and I've read a bunch of stuff, and I've talked to a lot of Jersey artists and stuff like that. Why don't you think Jersey gets the name that it should?
Man, that's a good question. All right, come on, let's just take a history lesson real quick. One of the first rap labels that we know of is Sugar Hill Records. Mm-hmm. Sugar Hill Records is based out of Jersey, and they did a combination of things. They brought in a bunch of artists from New York, as well as some collaborators out of Jersey as well. And because New York was the epicenter mm-hmm. of rap music, per se, quote unquote, yeah. I believe that it was just a time where, when you said the tri-state area, Jersey was kind of included in that. Like, so to the outside listener,
yeah, I could see that.
They wouldn't separate Jersey from New York. Mm-hmm. It was almost like Jersey didn't even exist. Only New York would exist. So if you came from even areas like Connecticut and areas like that, you would always hear New York. Mm-hmm. So the very first record that I remember that kind of took off for rap music, even though there was rap that was out there, the very first record that took off for rap music that I remember was the Sugar Hill Gang. And the Sugar Hill Gang came out with a record called Rapper's Delight in 1979. And that group was mixed with three guys, two of which is from Jersey. But no one ever makes that the thing that, you know, that they were from Jersey.
You never hear that, especially about Sugar Hill. You'll never hear that.
Another thing, the record that changed rap forever was a record called The Message. And Melly Mel, who's part of Grandmaster Flash and the Furious 5, when you look at that record, it says Grandmaster Flash and the Furious 5, but there's only two artists on that record that's rapping. That's Melly Mel and another gentleman by the name of Duke Booty. Duke Booty is from New Jersey. Now, a lot of people may not know that. Some people like yourself, you may know that. But when you talk about The Message, the only MC that really comes up is Melly Mel. Mm-hmm. You know, and you know, it's a tough call, man, because Jersey kind of always gets the second tier.
Yeah, and like I said, when I bring it up, it's not so much like a friction thing. It's just more like, I mean, because I think about the catalog that's come out of Jersey. You know, yourself, and you know, I'll even go to a white rapper, Milkbone, stuff like that. You know what I mean? And just but it does make sense what you said. It almost is put together with Jersey. But if you think about like the West Coast, we had Compton, and then, oh, he's from Whutz, and he's from this. And it's just strange that the impact that you guys, I would say even like a Redman is more known for being Redman than, oh, an MC from Jersey, right? Because the name is, you know, there. And it's like, yo.
The funny thing is, even Redman, I don't think Redman, I say this all the time, I think there are a bunch of Jersey MCs that don't get any mention when it comes to, you know, rap. Mm-hmm. But mentioning Redman, as strong as Redman is, I honestly believe if Redman had never gotten involved with Method to do that group, a lot of people probably wouldn't know who Redman is.
Yeah.
And I hate to say that because he's so dope. Like, I mean,
Yeah,
Redman's one of my favorite MCs. But like, again, there are several Jersey MCs who I believe are phenomenal, who just kind of get overlooked or swept under the rug, or
Lords of the Underground.
For the lack of unless you're a rap enthusiast, and then
yeah, absolutely.
Then it's hard to forget them.
Yeah, and again, I mean, I'll give credit where credit is due. Hip hop, wouldn't be the same without Jersey. I can tell you that right now. But I can see how people, some people aren't into it as we are, you know what I mean? And I get that too, to where it's like, oh, it's East Coast, it's whatever, and this and that. But I could hear the difference. I'll tell you right now, one thing I miss, and I talk about a lot on the shows, I miss soundtracks. One of my favorite soundtracks all time is New Jersey Drive, volume 1 and 2. I mean, that's incredible. Now, you were on Above the Rim soundtrack too, right?
Well, I was on Above the Rim, this movie soundtrack, but when Suge took over the actual LP, man, he put a lot of he put Death Row on there, and a lot of the projects that he put on that project weren't even in the movie at all.
Well, yeah, and I remember too, even when it came out, I had the tape that had 2 extra songs that the CD didn't. Like Pain and Loyal to the Game with Tretch was on the tape, and it wasn't on the CD.
Right.
I do miss soundtracks though. Soundtracks was always, such a big part of hip hop. I mean, big part of everything. And I hate to put everything in a hip hop conglomerate, as far as like, oh, hip hop, because I believe in 2021, hip hop is a strong. You make a strong case that it's a part of American history.
Oh, absolutely.
And so I hate just being like, oh, hip hop, but it's true. Now you listen to like every commercial that you watch is a hip hop beat in the background.
Yeah. To be quite frank with you, I mean, as far as you figure hip hop is probably, 40 some odd years old.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So in that 40 years, hip hop has been made the soundtrack of America, and now the soundtrack of the world.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can go back as far as Wild Style, Beat Street, those to people like myself, who was just a boy listening to that stuff, those soundtracks meant everything.
Mm-hmm.
Then you can move on to movies like Breakin' and Breakin' 2 and Colors, and seemed like every after a while, when rap started to take over, it would be very difficult to do a project and not include it. I mean, especially if that movie was had any elements of the street in it. I mean, because you can't talk about the streets and not talk about hip hop. And I don't care what coast you're on. I don't care what country you're in. It's just like going to Jamaica, and there, we talk about reggae and we talk about dub and everything. But the truth is, as rough as reggae is, and I think as important a role as reggae plays in hip hop, American hip hop even changed that.
Mm-hmm.
It changed the sound of
Absolutely.
that.
I agree.
Yeah. So I think what you say is true. I think the elements of hip hop is in everything, and it's hard to even sell products today without it, because most people, youth, they grew up listening to hip hop, and I don't care, what their culture is. I don't care where they came from, what their culture is. They grew up listening to hip hop. I mean, I'm even one deeper. In our country, it's a big, big problem with racism, right? Mm-hmm. We all know that. Now, you're in Canada, right?
No, I'm in LA. I'm in Los Angeles.
Yeah, you're in LA. But you already know. But even in that, you go through the whole spectrum, and even with racism being so prevalent, hip hop is still the most dominant factor in all.
Yeah.
In all of it. And it's kind of amazing to see. I guess that's true for most musics. I mean, you can go back, to the 50s and 60s, And even the 70s when Motown was real big, and you know, you got places where these people couldn't even walk through the front door, but they were performing for a bunch of folks that didn't look like them.
Oh yeah. You know,
so.
I think it was I had Brother Jay on the show not too long ago, and he said they love rhythm and blues, but they just want the rhythm and not the blues. You know what I mean? Like they don't want the bad part of what it's like back then to be a.
Jay is my brother, so
great.
Sounds just like
it was hard to get off the phone with him, because you could just go into more in depth of what you talk about, and you know, every time I talk to him, it's just a great conversation. But it's true, you know, they want the highlights of a rap star. They don't want the blues, you know, not talking about music, the blues of what it was really like to be. Because true, you got to think about, and I don't know how you felt when you started, but you know, as a kid, see, I'm 41 years old now, so I was buying gangster rap here in Cali when people were running it over with bulldozers and lighting it on fire, and you know, like, you know what I mean, and it was a big deal. But I'm also from the streets. You know, I didn't grow up in a good neighborhood. I grew up in primarily Black neighborhood. You know what I mean? Okay. So I saw the blues. You know what I mean? I saw, like, okay, we're rappers. I mean,
but there are good Black neighborhoods too. Just so you.
There is no, and look at this though. Here's you actually bringing up my point that I'm gonna.
Huh?
We found, so you actually bring up the point of where I was gonna go with that is, you know, we found success out of it. We were told it was a fad. We stuck with it. You know, they tried to ban gangster rap. They put parent advisory stickers on it to try to, you know, persuade people not to buy it and this and that. And here we are, 2021, with Snoop and Dr. Dre at the Super Bowl this year. You know what I'm saying? Where Prince has performed, and you know what I mean? And it's like, okay, that's a win. But there's a lot that happened in between all this that made it happen. And I think I get people tell me I'm an old grumpy hip hop head, but I grew up in an era that was very special. You know, it's special. And I take it as a win, because to me it's like, look at all that has happened and transpired between here and there to make it the success, where people, just as you said, they know what hip hop is, they know some artists, and they don't even listen to it. I mean, and I think that's where I get upset at some of the newer generation. Again, I'm not here to tell anybody what type of music they should be doing. You know, creativity is creativity, but at least just have some knowledge about who did it before you. You know what I mean? Just what they went through, you know, what they even went through to record without Pro Tools and the computer. You know what I mean? It was a process just to cut a record back then. You know what I mean? So I think that's where my disconnection is with the newer people. But again, who am I to tell them what type of music, or, you know, how they should be creative when they do it? You know, I'm all for the game evolving. Absolutely. And it has to, right?
Right. Absolutely.
So to me, you know, seeing something like that on the Super Bowl, and you know what, I got to give credit to Snoop. You know, like it's funny, I don't get to watch videos really anymore, but going through the TV on this, there was like Yo MTV Raps, but it's not Yo MTV Raps, but they played rap videos, and Nothing But a G Thing came on, and I saw this little skinny Snoop, and I'm like, oh my God. And then a commercial comes on, it's him on the Corona commercial, and I'm like, man, look at what this, you know, Snoop's an entity now. It doesn't even have to be hip hop, you know, it's just
right.
So, you know, more power to him. So I will ask on that, you know, what were you feeling like when it started out? What, you know, when people are saying, hey, this is a fad, it's not going to stay, this and that, how were you feeling about it?
Well, I mean, I had to deal with that firsthand when I first got in the game of hip hop, and went to my mother about it, because she knew I was writing and the different stuff. But when I had an opportunity to actually get something put out, she said just that. She said, this is a fad, it's not going to last. You got to think about school, focus on that. You know, this thing is in today and it'll be gone tomorrow. And so, and that's a person in my household telling me this. So I just never believed that.
That's a generational thing too, because didn't our parents get told that, you know, rock and roll was going to be gone and stuff too? I mean,
but let's think about this. So, I mean, she could have been right. She could have been right. She wasn't right, but she could have been right. I mean, people thought that disco was going to be around forever, And I guess elements of it still is, because you got people who still listen to it. But at the end of the day, there was a time where you really couldn't go anywhere without disco being the thing. And so I don't think anyone outside of the people who were doing it because we were actually just doing it for the love. We weren't actually doing it for the glamour and the glitz of it. We were doing it because we just loved it. And I think when you love something, it's hard to get rid of it. And so that's why the golden era of hip hop is just going to always be around. I don't necessarily know if some of the trending styles will always will stand the long lasting hands of time. However, I do believe, I can't see that. Yes. However, I do believe that with hip hop, it's going to be very, very difficult to look at the 20th century and the 21st century and not include that element, because it's so prevalent. And like I said, it's not just, it's like COVID. It's everywhere. Everywhere. You can't go anywhere in Africa and there's not hip hop. You can't go anywhere in South America and there's not hip hop. You can't go anywhere in Europe or Asia and there's not hip hop. And so when I think about it, you know, we can. They tried to sweep it under the rug. You know, they tried that. And before the because they during the NWA, you mentioned that when they were burning, you know, CDs, they really tried to crash the whole idea of hip hop then. But what they didn't understand was that those kids in the streets weren't doing hip hop music or making hip hop music for the masses. We're doing it for cats around the way, you know, and as long as there's cats around the way, there's going to be cats banging on tables and rapping and telling their story to their local, you know, folks, their neighborhood. And I think that that's what makes hip hop so strong. Similar to if you were to talk about blues, the reason blues is never going to go anywhere is because those sad stories, just like country music, those sad stories, they resonate, man. I mean, and they speak to people in a way that
it's relatable.
The masses won't understand.
It's relatable. It's you know,
it is.
And with me, one thing I loved. See, I grew up. My family played like prohibition style boogie woogie and blues on the piano. So I grew up playing like 1920s, 1930s blues and boogie woogie, walking bass lines, like Mead Lux Lewis and Pine Top Smith and stuff like that. So anytime someone would pass away, birthday parties, New Year's, my family gets together with the upright grand piano, harmonica, and microphones. And they just play for hours and hours and hours. And so I had that growing up. And then I was raised in a hip hop community and I started putting it together and realizing, and this is where I loved about kind of this special golden era with samples, is that a lot of the samples you heard, and I talk about this a lot, but were records you heard from your parents. So they were already kind of your favorite songs. And then we were flipped for our generation and it became like your other favorite song again. And just that sound of vibrant vinyl and just the horns and how, you know, how they were masterfully tracked and mastered, and, you know, with the technology they had. I love that. And that raw hip hop sound, how it came out, was everything to me. I mean, because I've heard these records before they were flipped, you know, and it's like, wow, look at what they're doing. And I would show my parents, my sisters, my brother, like, look at what they did. Remember, we used to rock this record. Now listen to it. It's fascinating to me. I remember when I got my first drum machine, and, you know, I got an SP and was like, yo, this is crazy. Then, you know, I got an MPC, and I think I stared at it for like 3 days before, you know what I mean? Because we didn't have YouTube back then. You had to know somebody who had to use it, you know? But I think that kind of added to the part of the culture that was like, yo, I'm going to do this by any means necessary.
Oh, absolutely.
And like you said, with the blues and the pain, you know, everyone could relate to that. You know, even people around your corner could relate to your struggle of trying to do music. They see it, you know, and it's not just flashing cameras and, you know, red carpets and this and that. You know, they saw the struggle because of how the process was so difficult at the time.
Man, the struggle is real for everybody, bro. And people just don't understand. I mean, we play this game because somebody's controlling us, our thought process, to control how we think and how we eat, how we drink, how we move. But in the end, the struggle is the same.
Yeah.
You figure, there's only a few filthy rich people in this country and or even around the world. Everybody else is kind of just there, man. And if you're middle class, you're kind of teetering either way. You know what I'm saying? So, you almost have to understand that, man, if you got to keep a roof over your head, I don't care if it's, in the projects, or I don't care if it's over on Park Avenue. At the end of the day, you're still working.
Yeah.
You're still doing what you got to do daily. And to be honest with you, even if you're, on Park Avenue, losing that job, you may lose everything.
Yeah. What are some of the biggest lessons you learned with it? Because you were like one of the youngest to do some of the things that were ever done in hip hop, from labels to managing people to everything. What is some of the biggest?
It's funny
lessons?
that you know that, huh? Okay, yeah. I guess some of my lessons that were hard learned is, and I go through it even now, man. Like, I think some lessons just are gonna follow you all your days. It's very difficult. Yeah, like, they say, oh, you grow out of that. Not everything. You ain't gonna grow out of everything. I mean, you may grow out of it a little bit, or you may even, use it and grow from it. But growing out of stuff is kind of difficult.
Yeah.
Especially as you get older, you start to realize that whatever you were doing, those old habits really stick with you. Like, they're kind of just like there. Speaking of like management, like most of the artists that when I was doing this were very much in my age range. They were looking at somebody that was their peer, that was doing what they were doing and still trying to manage their careers as well. Mm-hmm. And for a lot of them, I would have to bend over backwards because I understood their plight. I understood what they were going through as an artist. Mm-hmm. I wish back then that I could have actually had two hats that I could actually take off, and when it was time to be manager, I could take that artist hat off completely and put this management hat on. But I couldn't do that. It was hard to separate the two, because cats, they see things the way they see it. They want it the way they want it. And no matter how often you tell them or how many things that it takes age, because a lot of them will come now to me now and say, now I see what you meant. Now I see what you're going.
I'm sure.
But it took so long for the lesson to be learned, man. You could have been, we could have went around the world twice and you could be that, Jay-Z right now. You could be, as far as finances is concerned. But at the end of the day, a lot of them, they just, put the cart before the horse, as my mother would say.
Yeah, absolutely. But it being so new too, I'm sure there was some stuff even you were like, damn, I mean, this life anyway, damn, I wish I knew that when I did. But it being a new business, and I guess you could quote unquote say a new genre, as it started to peak. I mean, they were just inventing ways how to screw people. You know what I mean? They didn't even know how to fully screw people back then. When it come down to it. But I can see that, because it's just, again, it being so new and so fresh. I mean, I would think if I, back then, if I was signed, really had something, I'd just be so happy that it happened that, I'd probably make the wrong decision. I always say, if I would have got rich back in the day, I probably would be dead or in jail, because my mental capacity that's what, it would have been that, like, oh shit, this comes natural to me. So I guess the money comes natural, and, that doesn't really, coincide with each other.
Well, I mean, even if money comes naturally to people, money management might not.
Ain't that a fact?
Because you got a bunch of people who, go through the motions of being quote unquote rich for a moment. But those life lessons that they had to learn of losing everything after quote unquote having everything, Mike Tyson said it best. He said, hey, if you think that money's going to make you happy, you never have a lot of money before. And I believe that. I mean, because, you know, you see both ends of the spectrum. I think people need to find happiness within. They have to find peace within first. They have to be able to understand that the value is in the time, because it's really like the only form of currency that's actually valuable and valid. Everything else, man, is fake.
The
Everything
value and the time, that is amazing. To like, I understand it and I've understood it before, but I've never heard it put like that. The values and the time. That's amazing to hear.
Well, I mean, to be honest with you, to me, you only start to realize how valuable time is when you waste it and you can't get it back, or you start losing your friends and family and you didn't spend enough time, or you start thinking about things and you're like, man, I've been, and see, and we still chase our dreams, you know, no matter what, but I think there has to be some sort of a balance. And so you asked me, what are some of the hard lessons that I think that I have gone through, and even still now go through sometimes. You know, they say if you know better, you should do better, right?
Right.
But that's not always the case, because situations vary. And, you know, as long as situations vary, you're going to always find yourself, you know, questioning whether I should go down this way or that way. And so a friend, when I was in Houston, I told you I just spent like 8 months in Houston. It's this older guy. He used to come in the store and talk to me. And his name is Lincoln. He's a financial specialist. And one day he said, hey, how do you prioritize the things that you do? And after I explained to him how I did it, he went in on me. He went on and he went in on me in a nice way. I mean, he really knows how to speak, but when you strip it all down, he went in on my ass. That's what he did. And he told me, he was like, look, this is a 4-way deal that we have to follow this plan here. And if you do this, everything else will fall into place. He said, 1, you want to put God first. And I'll tell you what I think that is. Somebody says put God first. What you're doing is you're putting actually you in front of everything, because in all actuality, we are our own God, all of us, you know, and we're one with the great universe, right? So if we put that first, that ideal first, then we always pay homage. We always make sure that, you know, we're respecting the land, and we're respecting ourselves, and respecting the animals and the insects in the air and the water and people. You get me?
Yeah.
Put that first, because on a whole, that great consciousness is God. Then he said, you second, you as the person second. And I understood that, because he's basically saying, if you don't take care of your mind, you don't take care of your health, you can't take care of anything else, right? Third, he said, family's next. 4th is everything else. He said, if you don't put God first, you second, your family third, and everything else 4th, you'll fail every time. And to be honest with you, I understand, because you can't, if it's almost like this. It's almost like this. Hey, you set a goal. You set a goal. When you set a goal, you're going to create an outline for yourself, right? And you're going to try to follow that outline to the letter, because you done worked it out in your mind a million times exactly how you're going to get there. You start to veer, you start to sway, you start to lose focus. Before you know it, you never reach the goal, because you're just kind of losing focus. And I think the lesson that I think he was trying to teach me there is, you've got to be able to focus. And if you prioritize things, you'll always get there. because you're taking one step at a time, and you're not belittling yourself or your family or God to get it. You understand? Yep. So at least that's how I took it.
Yeah, and as you think in your past, is that what you've been doing, even though you just had that conversation?
In the past, by all means, I would have to say absolutely not. Okay. You know, because in my mind, like I'm a Sagittarius, man. I'm scatterbrained. Like my mind, I got a million things going on in my brain all the time. You know, you mentioned it earlier. Like, I mean, here I am being an artist, manager, producer, yeah, you know, just everything. And so my life has been weird that from like the end of January up to December, my window of opportunity is like wide open all year round. My phone is ringing all the time, many opportunities. And the closer I get to my birthday, they really start coming. And it's almost like you know how like you see something, you see it again and again, and it becomes, you know, it's second nature now. I already expect it.
Yeah.
Soon after my birthday, getting closer to January, it kind of just freezes. For some reason, I don't know if the world is just on hold, or if maybe it's the holidays and people just kind of slowing down. I don't know what it is.
I see it too, though, because even entertainment out here in LA, you know, everything shuts down. Nothing's filmed or anything from like Thanksgiving till after January. It's like the whole town goes on vacation or just stops doing whatever they're doing.
Yeah,
I've seen it.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. I, you know, to be honest with you, I don't necessarily know if I'm just speaking about business opportunities either. But I guess in the same sense, if people are not doing anything and they're figuring they're just going to relax, that's probably a good way or reason why it's happening. But I never understood it. And then, like I said, right, you get closer to January, early February, it starts to open up again, and it's just like. And it becomes rapid fire after a while. And I really wish that I had the capacity of being able to say, no, I can't do that. Where I, you know, always felt like if it crossed my desk, it was for me.
Yeah.
And I'm starting to realize that maybe it might be for me, but it might not be for me right now. And so I really got to learn to say no, or I need to learn to say, hey, great idea. If we're going to do this, I'm going to have to do this over here at this point. And so if I could change anything, that would be it.
That's one of my biggest battles right now. Because I'm trying to, you know, again, you're looking for every opportunity to make something happen. You know, I'm like, yo, this could be something that, you know, could be good. Let me try to do this. But, you know, I got 5, 6, 7 other things and then projects and then this and that, to where now the quality of what I can do is being compromised by trying to have the quantity of what I can do, you know, and that's a battle I'm literally facing with like this, like, especially since COVID hit, you know, and in this, you know, no shows, no nothing. Okay, well, let's get this and let's get this. And that's, you know, and then you just have all this all over the place, you know, and so I agree with you on that. But in saying that, what is new with you? What is new with you? What's new with, you know?
The latest thing is right here.
CMES.
Yeah. This is uncolonized CMES coming out of Tanzania. I just partnered with this company. I'm the new face of this company. And we are the biggest distributor of handcrafted CMES coming out of Africa. And so right now I've been kind of focusing on that, as well as a few groups. But uncolonized CMOS is where my head is. And then I have something else that I can't talk about right now because, you know, sometimes you put it out in the air and like everybody's like, oh wow, you know, like
Yeah, no, I got you on that. Trust
so
me,
this
I got you
particular
on
thing I
that.
can't talk about. But
I'm
this
hearing
is
more
where
and
my
more
head
about
is.
CMOS though. I'm hearing more and more. I mean, it's like damn near every vitamin that you need ever.
Yeah.
I still haven't tried any, but I'm having more and more people.
Well, whenever you're ready, let me know. I'll get some out to you.
You ready to do that, babe? Some CMOS?
Sure.
All right.
Well, CMOS, to be honest with you, CMOS is not new to me at all.
Me
It's been around. It's been around forever. Well,
Yeah.
we know it's been around forever, but I've actually been using it a long, long time. There used to be this Irish moss that, you know, you can go in Jamaican shops and get it. You know, it's good for vitality and libido and all this other stuff. And then as you start to grow, you start to realize that CMOS has 92 to 102 minerals in it. And it's good for energy, it's good for digestion, it's good for bone strength, it's good for libido, it's good for great energy. And so I think that that's what's happening. Like a lot of people out here, they're sluggish, you know, they're just out here and you know, people are trying to become more health conscious. And so I think CMOS, because it's a superfood with so much minerals in it, so many minerals in it, people are focusing on it. And, you know, since my mind is always on business, it's, you know, I've got to be doing something.
Ironically, the first person to kind of introduce me to CMOS as far as like I do this was
Stickman.
You know, because he had gout when he was like 23, so he had to quit drinking and smoking or whatever it was, right? And then, so I did like one issue of a magazine for my production company. It was like special edition. So I hit up Stick and this and that. And so I was talking to him on the phone. He's like, man, I've been feeling great. You know, he's always kind of been, you know, healthy since he was diagnosed with gout. But he was like, man, but this CMOS is something special. That was like 10 years ago. You know, like,
and think about that. You could have started then and
I know
and be right on it.
And that was like at the beginning of like RGB Fit Club and all that stuff like that. And he was like, it's amazing, Dyer. You should check it out. I was like, okay.
Yeah, Stick is probably one of the most health conscious rap superheroes there is. You know, he and I are brothers too. I've actually
you managed him at one point, right? You managed Stick at one point.
Yeah, that's funny, man. You do your homework, don't you?
Oh yeah, you know that. You know that.
Yeah, that's true.
I need a new Dead Prez album in my life.
I don't know why it never really kind of just panned out, because I love him. You know, it's just you try things and it works for a moment, and then, you know, sometimes you just got to move on from that. But it never changes the love, you know. Stick is my brother. Stick is my brother and will always be.
I was actually, because I keep their first album on my playlist, and I forget, we were driving and I just went back and listened to it again, and I'm like, yo, did this album drop recently? Look at what the fuck they talking about. It's like literally what is going on right now.
Right.
Dead Prez will always have a special place in my heart for their music, just because it was just so real and so, I mean, even you, I mean, like it's in your face, but there's like no compromise in it, but not in a bad way. It's just like, this is really how things are. And we are not going to sugarcoat it, because guess what? We still fucking here, and
we're still having to go through stuff even now. And to be honest with you, our children are having to go through it. And, you know, some people, not me, because I don't have any grandchildren, but you got people who they're watching their grandchildren go through it too. And this perpetual motion is really starting to become disheartening. Doesn't even describe it, man. It's starting to become unacceptable.
Yeah.
Unacceptable. And I'm praying that before I leave this planet, that I'm able to feel better about what I feel right now about our country. And I'll say that again, our country, out loud again, our country. I think some people forget that, you know, America was the whole premise and basis of America was to be this great melting pot of cultures. And we seem to have forgotten that. Even, you know, those European settlers who came here after the Asians were already here and after the Africans were already here. And, you know, they came and raped and pillaged the whole Native American culture. And
damn near brought coronavirus themselves.
Mexico, you look at like Mexico and all of this stuff that's going on with, I'm a little disappointed with Mexico right now because Mexico, you know, they as far as that quote unquote wall that's not actually there, they've been coming into the country for many years. Now, don't get me wrong, where they entered mostly was theirs already in the first place at some point.
Yeah.
So it's kind of unfair that they can't even come into that area without having to deal with the bullshit. But because they know the bullshit, to put those Haitians through what they put them through and kicking them in the heads and stuff and doing all that foolishness, it was just very disappointing, man. It's very disappointing because you yourself have been through it. You see it on a daily basis. You should understand their plight. And these people hadn't been in Haiti for probably over 10 years. They haven't even been home in 10 years.
Yeah.
And you're deporting these people who they don't even know Haiti at all. Some of them, the young ones, they don't even know who, you know, have you seen like little kids, like 2 years old, 6-month-old kids trying to cross water just to get into somewhere where they can try to find dry land. You know, it's sad, man.
It is sad. And you brought up that people forgot about, you know, how it started, but it's even more than that. It's almost like they forgot that it ever happened, right?
That it ever happened.
Like, it's not even like they just, you know, oh, well, no, like it was never a part of how this whole thing started.
Yeah.
And that's why, you know, my entertainment name is Dyer Lansky. And, you know, I always throw this shout out to Meyer Lansky II, because I'm actually a rapper that has a mafia last name that actually has permission from the family. So I always got to throw that out.
Cool.
Yeah, I got the cosign. But one of the things, like I was always fascinated by the mafia, not for the killings and this and that, but that, you know, poor immigrants came to this country and shaped U.S. history. You know, I mean, like literally shaped U.S. history. And you got to give them that. You know, you got to give them that they came from nothing and ended up influencing politicians and this and that. And that part of it is fascinating to me, because it's when you had nothing, you made everything for yourself. And I'll give them that. I'm not going to glorify murders or nothing. That's not why I, you know, have kind of a mafia last name. You know, I come from the aspect of, you know, I need better, and I'm going to try to do better. You know what I mean? Right. And look, I'll just say this, with the mafia, the government really started a lot of that by prohibition. You know, the mafia wouldn't have blown up if they wouldn't have outlawed liquor. So, you know, they were still hustling in their hoods and doing, you know,
beyond that, man, drugs and alcohol and free labor have built this country, period.
Yeah.
Period. End of story. And we can try to sugarcoat it. We can try to act like we don't know.
And like you said, it's not that it's that they act like it never happened. And how can you do that? Like, history's history, right? History's history. That's why it's history.
Well, you know, you could think so, but I mean, you've gone to school, you see what they teach in school.
Yeah.
And to be quite frank with you, you got a lot of people with different cultures who will never learn their history if it was left up to the school system to give it to them.
Yeah.
They would never get it.
Well, I love that Dead Prez song. They schools ain't teach us shit. Like, I love that song. But it's, again, non-apologetic. I'm just going to tell you what's happening. And you could choose to ignore it. You could choose to say it's false, or you can choose to say, you know what, this might work. It's up to everybody. But I kind of call a spade. And when you see the history of it, you're like, oh, wait a minute. They're really not even the history. When you see it happening, you're like, yo, this is relevant today.
That's right. You know, I always go back to Mike Tyson, because he's a person that I think has grown.
Oh, love that dude.
Yeah, his like you know, sometimes you just, you know, because I remember when Mike was just getting in the boxing game, and you know, big brute, idiot, whatever they would want to call him.
Speech impediment.
And he was just young. Yeah, just any negative connotation you could think of, they attached it to Mike Tyson. Can't think straight, can't speak, walking animal. Well, that quote unquote walking animal went through hell and back.
Yes, he did.
And he took those lessons and became a man, one that I love and respect. I mean, he's at peace with himself. He's making money. He's doing his thing. He's taking care of his family. He's everything that he should have become, where people would have thought by now Tyson would probably be one of these boxers washed up in the street, washed up, dead, And so when I only say these things because I always go back to him. And you were just talking about people want to, forget. They want to forget about the history. Mm-hmm. Well, Mike said it best. He said, look, if you allow someone to control your emotions, if you allow someone to control your emotions, then that person is no, they're not your enemy. They become your master. And so if you got so many people who will allow themselves to be fooled by these ideas where their emotions are touched, mm-hmm. rather than doing the homework, because doing the homework is just a little bit harder than just having to hear such and such call, such and such, and all I gotta do is be angry. All I gotta do is be angry without question. Hey, I'll go with that one. It makes it very simple for me.
Yep.
Well, I think for people like that, and I don't care what race you are, for people like that, I think you do the generations that are going to come up under you a very big disservice, because you're living your life and you're not actually living your life. You're actually living the life of someone else and their ideals. You're not having to think. You're not having to really, trudge through this whole cycle of life that we're calling, because you're basically saying, hey, well, such and such told me that if I just walk down this way, I'll be all right.
Yeah.
Well, if walking down that way only brings you anger, strife, stress, pain, then somebody lied to you. Because if you can look at Mike Tyson as an example, man, you had a guy who on the surface had everything.
Yeah.
And while he had everything, he literally had nothing.
Yep. And I think that's what, and you bring up such, I just even telling my wife this not too long ago, like, it's so nice seeing Mike Tyson nowadays. And I think one of the biggest you see is not just the growth, but like you said earlier, how he's at peace with himself. And that really stands out as a character trait. He's fine with what he did. Everyone's going to have regrets, right? But if you can sit in your inner self and be like, I'm good now. And watching growth like that is very inspiring, because I wasted half my life being angry. I really did. Like, it's because, like you said, it's easier to be angry. And also I found too, when you have faults and then something happens because of you being angry, you kind of get in this mode where it's like, well, my life's been fucked up, my whole life anyway. So this is just what happens. And you kind of just live with being angry and disappointments and this and that. And then you can't live with yourself after a while, because it's just like, okay, why is my life all fucked up? You know what I mean? And so again, watching him at peace with himself is so inspiring. I mean, he's from Brownsville, right?
Yeah, he's from Brooklyn. Yeah, Brownsville.
Yeah, Brownsville. I mean, just the area alone, you gotta, come on now. Like, but no,
it's not that way. It's a little different now, but
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure.
But I mean, growing up, Brooklyn was no joke.
Oh yeah. Some of my favorite rap groups growing up, even being on the West Coast here, I was a huge Boot Camp fan. So, anything Duck Down, I was in,
They're still around,
Oh yeah.
Buckshot's still doing his thing heavy, man. I'm proud of him. He's doing his thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually have Buckshot on an album I'm finishing right now too.
Okay,
so,
good.
Yeah,
good.
Can't wait to put it out. But this has been great. I got to bring up a little history too. You're actually kind of the one that put Daniel Hastings on the map, right?
Who?
The Daniel Hastings.
Daniel Hastings, yeah.
So he ended up doing Enter the Woo, Raekwon, Big Pun.
Daniel and I, we just talked. You know, it's funny how Daniel, when we talked, he I don't really try to go there. Like I really, if you ask, I'll tell.
Yeah.
But you already know, evidently, because you did the history.
Yeah.
Daniel was just an upcoming photographer. He was, he wanted to get in the game, and we gave him a shot to do my album cover. And in the interim, what we also did was, I know that Danny wanted to expand his horizons. He wanted to do more. And so when I shot The Ghettos Been Good to Me,
mm-hmm.
Danny was the DP. And I just think that, I hate that we didn't do more work after that. But we recently talked about doing some things,
nice.
A different project together. And I'm still waiting to let, watch that come to fruition, because I would like to see that happen. But Daniel was starting to get his true accolades. People, it's hard to, if you, especially coming up in the 90s, if you listen to most of the R&B and most of the hip hop that was happening at that particular point, early to mid 90s, Danny was right there. He was doing his thing. And so it's good to see that that he's happy and healthy. And I won't get into Danny's personal life, because I'm sure you already know, but he's found his way.
Yeah, that's
he's
good.
Found his way, and I'm happy to see him happy.
And to me, it's funny because my daughter she's 12. She just turned 12 on the 5th, actually. And she is on a
happy belated.
She's on a horrendous, or what's a better word for it? Her Wu-Tang thing right now. Like, I can't go in the room without her Wu-Tang. And so I told her, I said, hey, earlier when she came home from school, I said, so the guy I'm interviewing today, he the guy that did his album cover ended up doing Enter the Woo and Only Built for Cuban Links and this and that. She was like, really? I was like, yeah, he was actually really the first known one to do work. She was like, wow, that's good. Because she's on I can't go in there. In fact, the other weekend, she was getting ready and I heard her playlist, and it was Wu-Tang, some Juvenile. She had a little Joyner Lucas in there, so it was a little newer, and then some NWA. And I was like, kind of just proud of her little playlist. I'm like, okay, we can,
right.
But
what I love about Danny is that his humility. The first time I had talked to Danny, after not talking to him after a while, he said, bro, I've been looking for you. And I'm trying to quote him verbatim. He said, bro, I've been looking for you. He said, you took a chance on me. You gave me my shot. You helped me get through the door. And I love when because all that is growth, man.
Absolutely.
That's growth. Wise intelligence. I always use this quote, because he kind of blew my mind some years ago. A lot of people don't know my history with Wise, but I'm sure you do, because you seem to know everything. But Wise, he said something. Well, he actually didn't say it in his mouth. He said it. He wrote it. Brother Jay, Wise, and I did a show out in Boston for this DJ by the name of DJ Nomadic, this female out in Boston. Real cool. And we did this show. Wise was selling these CDs, and I got a CD from him. And I said, yo, I want you to sign my CD. And Wise took literally 10 minutes to think about what it was that he wanted to write. Or it would seem like it was 10 minutes. It seemed like it was forever. And it seemed like he was struggling with it. Anyway, when he gave me my CD, I didn't want to open it in front of him, but I wanted to see what it said. I wanted to, I just wanted to see. I'm like,
yeah, absolutely.
And it was simple what he wrote, but for me, it made me proud to know that I'm a part of this man's life. He simply said to YZ, one of the reasons I rhyme, and that it was enough for me. It was like it was over for me. And not that I was carrying anything even at that point, but it was almost like anything that might have happened in the past that might have looked negative doesn't even exist anymore to me. Because you talk about growth, that's growth. And
absolutely.
For me, that's what I like to see in people, growth. And it doesn't necessarily have to mean financial growth, because everybody kind of bases everything on something that's fake, this material shit.
Yeah.
Growth has to come with peace. It has to, Mike Tyson, just if you want to learn, listen to that man. Like, cause he sounds like a damn guru, to me.
No, I agree 100% with you. I've said it so late. I mean, in the last couple of years, just, it like I said, it's an inspiration to see him. It really is. Not like, and I hope everybody sees it, because he deserves everything that he has right now, and everything. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Absolutely. And so that's what it is for me, man. Like when I just feel like when I look at, different people who have crossed my path and that I've been able to be blessed enough to be a part of their life and have them be a part of mine, it's good to look back on it and see where they are now. And I don't necessarily mean where they are financially. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about as people, how they treat people, how they look, what their outlook on life is. You get me? Because if you're still into the same old bullshit that you were, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, 30 years ago, then there isn't any growth.
Yeah.
And I'm the type of person that, because it's hard for me to not say what's on my mind, I would have these long conversations with people about it. And hopefully if they see something in me, they can just say it to me too. Because I mean,
I see a ton of growth in you. I really haven't, seen like new music from you or anything like that. To be honest, I'm a fan. You stay on my playlist, but even talking to you right now, I see a ton of growth in what you're saying. But, you likewise, I mean, everything you guys talk about, even the Ghetto Good to Me and stuff like that. Like, I mean, I think my favorite MCs, I've always said this, talk on a track. You know what I mean? Yes, there's a rhythm to it. And yes, there's a rhyme scheme. And yes, there's some, but if you could blank everything out, it would still be like he looking right at you and just talking to you. Yeah. And you definitely have that gift, along with, a lot of these other artists. And that's what made me fall in love with hip hop, and, it's, again, with growth is everything. I with yourself, I mean, Mike Tyson is the best example. I'm telling you, I've told so many people this about Mike Tyson in the last couple of years, because it's just amazing. And shit, I come from the Mike Tyson days when he was running around with Death Row, and I was in the streets out here, and all the stories you heard, and we used to say back in the day, like, would you let Mike Tyson hit you in the face with for $1 million? You know what I mean? Like stuff. So that was part of kind of our culture out here as well. Or I don't want to say culture, but just the streets talking and stuff like that. So to see him like that, it was just like good for him. And again, I know I've repeated this, but to see that he's he has peace within himself, and he's forgave himself, it's just inspiring to see. And that's a true story that needs to be told and seen.
It's a true testament. It's a true testament, and it should cross all racial boundaries.
Yeah.
Because you're talking about somebody who came from really absolutely nothing.
Absolutely. Raising pigeons in a pigeon coop and escaping bullies, and you know what I mean? It's a great story. It's a great story.
Yeah.
But
on that story yet. I'm waiting. I guess it'll come.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this has been amazing to do. I thank you so much for your contribution to not only hip hop, but just humanity. I mean, it's just like I said, when Todd said, YZ, I'm like, oh my gosh, like Yes, yes, yes. Let's do this. And so I really appreciate your time. You know, one thing I read that you had said in an interview, and I love it. And it kind of goes back to when we first started the interview about Jersey not getting its recognition. You kind of said that, but you also said in the quote, and I want to say it kind of verbatim, but if I mess it up, I'm sorry. But you said, "But I'm glad the artists aren't begging for it." And I love that. I love
Man,
that
you
because
do your homework, don't you?
no, but I love that because first off,
Well,
you shouldn't have to, right?
no.
You know, but you are. But I think it falls into you're at peace with yourself, and you like that other artists from Jersey are at peace with themselves, that they know what they established, and you know what, we're Jersey. This is our entity, and we did that. You know, we're good with that.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I just think that we've come to the realization that if you look at the history of hip hop wouldn't be the same without Jersey. It just would not be the same. It would not. We wouldn't recognize it as we know it right now if Jersey, Philadelphia, Connecticut, New York, shit.
You
DC,
said would not. I'll say could not. Could not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, period.
Yeah. We wouldn't. It would be very different. So I'm only saying that to say, I think it's good that Jersey MCs understand that sometimes silence is the best way to be heard.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you wash everything all down, you can rinse it, you can sugarcoat it with paint and all this other stuff, but when you wash it all down, there's Sugar Hill Records.
Yeah, that's
there's Redman, there's
Queen Latifah.
Doc Effects, there's Queen Latifah and Lauryn Hill and Fuji.
Yeah. We're about to go see them. Actually, my wife and I are going to see them. They're
King
in LA
Son,
on the 14th.
DJ Cheese,
Yeah,
King Son.
Yeah.
That Lakim Shabazz, all the flavor unit.
Gosh,
Naughty by Nature. Naughty by Nature. Apache.
Oh, Apache was dope.
Apache, man, and just a good brother too.
Yeah.
Just a good brother. I mean, it's what I'm saying is, and I know that there's so many more that that because we I could sit here and maybe I should get a list of all of Jersey
Absolutely.
MCs. But at the end of the day, you can mention just a couple. You can mention Poor Righteous Teachers, and that's enough for me.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think what happened when PRT came out, it kind of set the benchmark just a little higher.
Yeah.
That you really had to be on your shit.
You did.
If you were gonna do this, and so you got Do It All and all
I got Do It All on the show next week.
Yeah, Lords of the Underground. You got, I mean, come on, the list goes on and on
and
on and on and on. Shit, even Cool V is from Jersey,
Yeah,
so
absolutely. I did know that. He's like from like Trenton or something, right? I think, or something like that.
No, Cool V is from Irvington, I believe.
Okay.
Or yeah, he's from, I think that's Irvington, but right next to Orange in Newark.
Got you.
And the first time that I went to Cool V's house, I went there with Biz, and Biz has this setup down in the basement, records everywhere, and so like what I'm saying is New Jersey MCs play such a intricate part. If I didn't mention Redman, we already talked about him quite a bit. Redman is one of the best to ever do it. Would you say?
Keith Murray?
Keith Murray is not actually from Jersey.
Okay.
I think Keith Murray's from Long Island.
Oh, you know what? You might be right.
Yeah, I think he's from Long Island.
You might be right. Okay.
But
I think you are right.
But he reps with Jersey MCs.
Yeah.
To me, I don't think Lauryn Hill gets even, because people say, her body of works or whatever. But to be honest with you, I mean, somebody's work is just so much ahead of the time. It's so much bigger than, maybe something that maybe 10 other acts probably have done. And I don't care what MC you have out of there, even these cats in New York, all of them have Jersey ties. And most of them, when they get money, they move to Jersey. Jay-Z included. And Jay-Z spent a lot of his time in Jersey. As a matter of fact, I believe he lived there for a while.
Yeah, he did. He did. You know what's ironic you say about Lauryn Hill is, I was having this conversation actually. The Miseducation album was such a great album, but check this out. If you listen to it, say like if you stripped all the lyrics from it and then made it a hip hop album, right? Just a straight hip hop, it could be a hip hop album too. Like it's so dynamic and put together so well. And you know, I mean, one of the best albums ever made. I'm sorry. Like it just really is.
Of all times. And then that live album she did.
Oh yeah.
I love that album. I mean,
when are we going, babe?
Where?
The 14th? Is that what for the Fugees? Oh, Fugees are in LA like November 14th. I can't wait. Can't wait.
That was the best news that I heard in a long time, that the Fugees were going on the road.
Fugees is the 12th.
The 12th, November 12th. Oh yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, well,
it's been a blessing talking to you. I hope to, catch up with you again. Anything you need from us here, please let us know. I'll definitely send you, once I get this edited, some certain parts, and definitely get it to you. Anytime you touch down LA, if you need anything, let us know.
Absolutely, man. I mean, maybe just to have a cup of coffee or something. I mean, it's good to sit down with.
Absolutely. This has been great. I absolutely had a blast today. So thank you so much for your time. And thank you for everything, like I said, in general. I just definitely inspiration to me. Even what you did back then is why I'm sitting here in front of this camera right now. You know what I mean? So
thanks. Thank you. I appreciate it.
And I look forward to catching up with you again.
Hey, if you get a chance, listen to the Legend of Floyd Jones album and listen to the Muad'Dib album if you haven't heard those already.
I've listened to the first one.
The Legend of Floyd Jones. That's an ode to Pee Wee Kirkland, by the way. So don't get confused at the message.
Yeah. Got you. Okay, salute to you. Appreciate it. Take care of yourself. We'll definitely be talking very soon.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for your time. Peace.
All right. Peace.